What is going on, Poke fans? Welcome to TCG Center. I hope you have a good day. In today's video, we'll be looking at Hisuian Goodra VSTAR deck. It's been a long time since I recorded and uploaded any video on the channel, so finally I'm back after like a year and so. And I'm bringing you a deck list that I used last week at my local LGS store, where I basically get a first place with it. It's a mix of Lost Zone Comfy and Cramorant, featuring Goodra VSTAR as a main attacking Pokemon. There is also Drapion V as the backup Pokemon. I want to also mention that I really like the new TCG Live client. When there was a beta, it was total disaster for me, but when I like few days ago downloaded from the internet and decided to play it again and do some videos, I was shocked how good the game looked on the desktop, on the PC, and how much they improved it. I really like it, and thumbs up for the Pokemon for doing that. So let's go quickly through the deck list and see what we have in it. So I'm playing one copy of Wild Freeze Articuno. So you're probably gonna ask yourself, why in the world you're playing Articuno with a Wild Freeze? Well, Articuno can hit for 70, but with the help of the choice build, you can increase the damage done to your opponent Pokemon V for 30 more damage. So theoretically speaking, Articuno can hit for like 100 damage, for example Regieleki, and you can leave him paralyzed. In some scenarios, even hitting for 70 your opponent active Pokemon and leaving them paralyzed you can buy yourself like a turn to win, to get that boss if it's necessary, if opponent doesn't have switch or escape rope to get out of that special condition. Also, there is one copy of Lost Provision Cramorant, which says that if you have 4 more cards in the Lost Zone, you can ignore all energies in the Pokemon attack costs. Spit instantly, you can hit for like 110. It's a one price Pokemon. Pretty much, if you go first, every turn 2 you will have Cramorant ready to attack with this deck. Only if it's not priced, you're not going to be able to attack, but if it's not, in 9 out of 10 times, you will be able to attack with the Cramorant. Obviously, there is one Radiant Greninja as well in this build, which help us to go quickly through our deck, but also Moonlight Shuriken in some situations is really good. I often use this Moonlight Shuriken when I play against Lost Box, and also when I play against Miraidon, because you cannot one-hit knockout Miraidon. So usually what I do, I try to hit for 200 Miraidon, and then opponent switches it on the bench, and if I don't have boss, I can just hit another for 200, and then I can take 4 prize card knockout with Radiant Greninja, which is really insane. This deck also plays 4 copies of Flower Selecting Comfy, which is the main engine of this deck. Look at the top 2 cards of your deck, put one in your hand and the other in the Lost Zone. Unfortunately, we are not going to attack with Spinning Attack because we are not running Psychic Energy cards, but if we do, we will definitely consider playing Sableye instead. There is one Drapion V with Wild Style. This card literally destroys Mew VMAX. You can instantly knock it out for 380, but even if your opponent plays Path to the Peak, you can just accelerate them with help of the Mirage Gate. And then I'm playing for 3 copies of Hisuian Goodra V and Goodra VSTAR. As I mentioned, it Rolling Iron for 200, and your opponent next turn this Pokemon takes 80 damage less. And the more important thing is that you can use that VSTAR power, which is ability during your during your turn. You might heal all damage from this Pokemon, and you can't use more than one VSTAR. The only downside of that ability is the fact that sometimes you might find yourself under the path to the peak where you're not going to be able to use it. So that's it for the Pokemon lineup. Moving on to the trainer cards. 4 copies of Battle VIP Pass. Probably the best opening card you can get. You can use this card only during your first turn, but it really doesn't matter. You can later discard with the Ultra Ball or with the Flower Selecting. Search your deck for up to 2 basic Pokemon, put them on your bench, shuffle your deck. We have also 1 copy of Energy Recycle, which will help us to get those energies discarded back into our deck. It's really very important. Then I'm playing 3 copies of Escape Rope, 3 copies of Mirage Gate, which is a really good card. Unfortunately you cannot use it before you have 7 cards in the law zone, but pretty much turn 2 if you manage to put 2 cards in the law zone turn 1. Turn 2, if you can put 2 more and play Colress Experiment, you will already be on the 6. So theoretically, in some cases, turn 2 you can play Mirage Gate. In few games I managed to do that, but you really need to be happy with the opening cannon with the switch and the Escape Rope. But if you go second, probably if you open with the Colress turn 2, you will be able to use Mirage Gate. You can search your deck for up to 2 basic energy cards of different type and attach them to your Pokemon in any way you like. So Mirage Gate is pretty much used in Giratina VSTAR decks and Law Zone decks, and in the Law Zone featuring Goodra VSTAR, obviously. Speaking about setup, we do have 4 copies of Battle VIP Pass, but I also consider playing 3 copies of Nest Ball and 2 copies of Ultra Ball as well in this deck. And following that, I also play 2 copies of Pokegear 3.0. Additionally, 4 copies of Switch your active Pokemon with one of your benched Pokemons. For the stadium, I decided to play 1 copy of Temple of Sinnoh. All special energy attached to Pokemon, both your and your opponent, provide Colress energy and have no other effects. Now, when I played on the tournament, after like a year of break that I had, before that I managed to win also national championship, and then I took the break. I saw that a lot of people plays Pet the Pick on their lists, but I also noticed that a lot of people are playing decks like Inteleon with Rapid Strike Urshifu, Mew VMAX, and some other decks that heavily relies on the special energies, and that's the reason why I decided to play Temple of Sinnoh. And if I will go on another tournament again with this build, I would probably add another Temple of Sinnoh as well in this deck, so I can have 2 of them and I can have much better chance to just prevent them from using those special energies. Let's move on to the support lineup. So 3 copies of Boss's Orders, 4 copies of Colress Experiment, which is a staple card and one of only. I'm not gonna say only draw cards, because we also have Melanie and Roxanne, but it will be the best draw card in this build, because we can take the look at the top 5 cards from our deck, put 3 of them in hand, and put other 2 in the lost zone. Melanie is here also because it can help us to accelerate Goodra. Raihan is here as well because it can either way help us to get energy attached to Goodra, but the most important, it can also help us to get that energy on the Radiant Granger, which I mentioned earlier. But also a good thing about Raihan is that we can also search the deck for some extra card. Roxanne is good, but it's useless pretty much unless your opponent have 3 or fewer prize cards remaining. And once we can use it, we can pretty much force opponent to shuffle their hand into deck and then draw 2 cards, where compared to us we are drawing 6 cards in total. Tool cards, choice belt. Only one choice belt in this build. This attack, the attack of the Pokemon this card is attached to do 30 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon, and needs to be weak. Panic Mask. I was probably considering removing Panic Mask and adding another Stadium card, which will probably be the case, but Panic Mask sometimes can be really good against Gardevoir, and I find myself winning a lot of games against Gardevoir because Gardevoir really heavily relies on those energy attachments, and they really wants to charge the Zacian until he literally knock himself out, or Gardevoir, and we can just Panic Mask on our Hisuian Goodra and they won't be able to knock them out, and they won't be able to knock the Goodra out. So that's the reason why Panic Mask is so good, because it prevents Gardevoir deck from taking the knockout against Hisuian Goodra. But the most important thing about that matchup is also that Articuno can help us to win that match as well, because usually you're not gonna see Switch in Gardevoir list. Speaking about energy cards, I'm running 5 copies of Metal and 6 copies of Water Energies, so 11 energies in total. And that's pretty much the deck list that I'm gonna use in today's video. So if you already didn't, consider subscribing to the channel, hit a thumbs up, and let me know in the comments below what you think about this deck list. Let's move on to the game test so you can see how the deck works in action, so see you in the game. So it's been a long time since I uploaded and recorded any sort of video on my channel. I hope I will get back where I was a few years ago when I recorded. Alright, so I'm playing with Hisuian Goodra V. This is the deck list that I built recently. I played around 100 games so far with it, to be honest, and I was really success with it. Last weekend I also won local tournament with it without a single defeat. If your opponent cannot one-hit knockout Goodra V, then you are in pretty much very comfortable zone. The most issues I had with this deck was every time I faced Miraidon EX deck. Miraidon can easily set up turn 1 with Raikou, and then they can simply boss's order and knock the Goodra out. Okay, let's take the risk. Okay, so risk rewarded. And unfortunately, no sign of a switch for now. So I can basically retreat now, and I will do that, of course. If I decided to attach energy this turn, theoretically speaking, I cannot discard 2 Goodra V in my discard pile. That's impossible. So theoretically speaking, if I attached energy on Goodra and then next turn played Melanie, I could hit for 200 damage that Miraidon, potentially even boss's order. Actually, I wouldn't be able to play boss's order as well, but potentially if my opponent played Raikou, I could, in the active position, I could knock him out. Maybe I could even go for Regieleki with Escape Rope or something like that, but since he had 2 Miraidons, he definitely wouldn't do that. But on the other hand, if my opponent decided to play boss's order, if he hits energy attachment plus boss's order on the Goodra, since the bench is full, he would just simply knock me out. But taking the look at his hand, something tells me that he wouldn't go for the boss's order route here. Maybe he will, maybe he would not, who knows. but I need to get 7 cards in my lost zone as soon as possible. So this is how this deck works, pretty much. This deck will have a really good stand against Mew VMAX. Even Mew VMAX will just, you know, place those Pet to the Peaks. You can deny it with you can outplay Mew with 2 stadiums that prevent opponent from utilizing those. Should I go with Escape Rope? Yes, I will. Add those special energies. Temple something. Can't actually. Temple of Sinnoh. Okay. So choose the Pokemon to switch. Something was glitched. I was not able to retreat Comfy. Okay, there we go. None of these 2 cards are actually good for now. I can go for Colorless Experiment, which I will do for sure. Okay, so there's Goodra VSTAR, which is fine. And then I have 4 cards. Let's discard these 2 and let's grab another Goodra as well, so we can get out of the knockout range, at least for now, from that Raikou V. And Colorless Experiment. Really not hard choice at this moment. So yeah, do I want to retreat and hit with Cramorant? That's the good question. I think I don't want to personally do that, just because I'm just gonna attach energy and pass the turn. Next turn I will have seven Pokemons in my lost zone, seven cards in total in my lost zone when I play my flower selecting. And I just don't want to lose Cramorant, because at some point Cramorant will be more effective against Regieleki, for example, or maybe against Miraidon, where I can trade Cramorant for that knockout with Cramorant with Miraidon. So I can trade Cramorant, hitting my opponent, for example, for like 110, and then if he don't have Boss's Order, I can knock the Miraidon, for example, with the Goodra, which is much more effective than just hitting Raikou for like 110, because Raikou will be knocked out anyways next turn. The only card that I need to get is either way. Actually, I can just go with Melanie next turn, so I can be 100% positive that I will get the knockout. I'm not gonna risk stacking in the active position with the Comfy, or I can go for that. I mean, how many switch cards did I play? Not too many, I should say. Okay, let's go with a Comfy. Who cares? We're probably gonna get switch anyways. Man, top deck switch, perfect. Okay, let's see. Flower selecting. Articuno is not the card that you really want to discard. That's for sure. Choice belt on the other hand is useless at this point. Maybe it's not if you want to go with Snipe later, but let's rather grab that Articuno. Let's rather get Articuno on the bench. Okay, so let's go with Melanie. 3 cards, okay. 3 very good supporter options for the next turn, but the most important is that I'm gonna hit with Rolling Iron for 200 damage. And that Raikou will be knocked out. And I'm taking first 2 prize cards in the game. So we are 5 versus 4. And for how many damage my opponent needs to hit right now? For too much. So right now, he does 80 damage less. So at this moment, Miraidon is hitting for 140 damage. And with 2 more Regilekis on the bench, sitting on the bench, he is doing 200 damage total, which is not even close for the knockout against Goodra in the active position, even with another Regileki that will be 220, and with a choice build 250. And that's really sad because I can just use VSTAR effect and heal all of the damage from Hisuian Goodra. So he needs some sort of escape rope boss's order to knock the Goodra out, and that's what we are going to see right now. So let's promote that Comfy in the front. And how many boss's orders he have in his discard pile? 2 of them. Interesting. I have boss's order in my hand, which will probably... I have 3 boss's order in my hand, not 1, but 3 of them. And I have few options available. Let me see what I can get with my flower selecting. Mirage Gate. Perfect. Okay, how many energies do I have in my discard pile? 2. How many metal energies do I have in play? 1. And like 5 water energies. I'm not gonna gamble my Mirage Gate. I just want to be 100% positive that I have that water energy remaining. Perfect. So we can do something like this. And I can attach energy right here. And I can play Escape Rope to get out of the active position with that Comfy. Regileki will probably be promoted in the active spot, as expected. But to be honest, I'm just gonna play Boss's Order and hit for 200 damage. Unfortunately, it's not enough, but it's okay, because even if he somehow managed to get that Boss's Order and knock my Goodra, all I really need to do is simply retreat on my, promote my Greninja in the front, hit for 90 and spread 90 on the bench. So it is my turn, and what I'm going to do right now, I'm just going to use that powerful VSTAR ability, which will heal all of the damage from my Goodra. And I can also play that Colorless Experiment and see if I can pull maybe... No, unfortunately I cannot. I was hoping for Escape Rope or Switch, but couldn't get one. Meanwhile, we'll power up my Goodra with 1 energy and we'll just hit for the knockout. Ideal scenario would be just to go for the Boss's Order and go for another 200 damage and another Miraidon, and the next turn I could just win the game with the Radiant Greninja. But then again, he might somehow pull the knockout against on that Radiant Greninja, so I really didn't want to do that. So there's a Xenia's Resolve. Discard 2 cards from your hand and then draw a card for each of your opponent's Pokemon in play. So 6 cards in total. Can he somehow power up that Flying Pikachu? We shall see. So I still need to take 2 more prize cards. Flying Pikachu, during your opponent next turn, prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by your opponent basic Pokemon. So I still need to take 2 prize cards. The game is still not over. There is a switch card into Flying Pikachu VMAX, and then we shall see only 80 damage. Only 80 damage. So yeah, this is really, really powerful. This deck is really powerful, there's no question about it. I'm not gonna. I'm actually play Pokegear just to see what I have left. I have Mirage Gate and 2 energies with 2 switches. Okay, perfect. Do I want to play something else? No, really, I don't need. I'm just gonna roll for another 200 damage. And again, that Pikachu will does 80 damage less, so he can hit only for like 80. So there's another research. My opponent is desperately trying to dig something out, but yeah, I was too fast. Unfortunately for my opponent, he was not able to get the 2 prize card knockout against that Hisuian Goodra, and because of that, once I managed to roll that Goodra and hit first for the 2 prize card knockout, he was not able to get back, and that's a GG. So yeah, really powerful deck, I should say. No question about it. It works perfect. It's really consistent, and you can just tweak it a little bit for your local meta, so you can find yourself more comfortable with it. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you did, please consider subscribing to the channel for more videos, hit a thumbs up, and support the channel and work as well. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave comments below, and I will answer to your question. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Till then, have a nice day, and goodbye.